It was supposed to be light-hearted, a bit of late-night fun, but the mood shifted fast, almost violently, as the joke landed like a slap across the face. The audience chuckled, at first, but you could see it in his eyes. Timothée Chalamet wasn't laughing. 1 second he was all charm and cheekbones, and the next his jaw stiffened, his smile faded, and a silence cracked across the studio like thunder on glass. Then came the comeback. Controlled, precise, laced with something that stung deeper than any punchline ever could. And just like that, the energy in the room turned. Colbert tried to steer the ship back toward comedy. Too late. Chalamet leaned in, dropped a line that sent gasps through the crowd, and stood up. The cameras didn't cut, the music didn't play. All anyone could do was watch as the heartthrob of a generation walked straight off the set. No goodbyes, no curtain call, just smoke in the wake of a joke that went 1 beat too far. And you're probably wondering, what did Colbert say that triggered it all? The setup, a stage not meant for drama. It started like any other episode of The Late Show. The set glowed under studio lights, that familiar cobalt blue hue splashing. Across the curtains behind Stephen Colbert's desk, the mug, the pen stack, the tidy notes, all in place. The audience was warmed up. Laughing on cue, the band had just finished a jazzy rendition of Sweet Dreams Are Made of This. You know the vibe. Casual, safe, rehearsed. Timothée Chalamet entered from stage left, dressed like he walked out of a Parisian fever dream, black mesh shirt under a velvet blazer, hair tousled just so. Effortlessly cool, walking that tightrope between art house mystery and Gen Z relatability. He and Colbert exchanged a friendly hug, the audience clapping like it was prom night and the popular kid just showed up. They sat. Banter flowed, a few jokes about Dune 2, some harmless pokes at his Willy Wonka role, nothing out of the ordinary. But there was a shift. Subtle. You'd only catch it if you were looking. Colbert leaned back more than usual. Chalamet's legs crossed, a little tighter. The pauses in conversation stretched just an extra beat, like both men were calculating their next move. Or maybe one of them knew something the other didn't. The audience kept laughing, mostly because they were supposed to, but something in the rhythm was off. It wasn't a comedy show anymore, it was a chess match, and only one of them realized they were already in check. The joke that wasn't just a joke about 10 minutes in. That's when it happened. Colbert, doing what he does best, leaned in with a grin and said, "So, Timmy, I read somewhere that you prepare for emotional scenes by crying in front of the mirror. Is that true, or are you just practicing your Oscar speech early?" Laughter, scattered but loud. Timothée froze for a beat. Just a beat. Then the smile came, but this one didn't reach his eyes. He tilted his head, took a breath like he was about to answer, and then stopped. He didn't blink. The air in the room shifted. You know when someone decides in real time, "Nah, I'm not letting." This slide, that was the moment. He adjusted his sleeve, looked down briefly, then locked eyes with Colbert again. The crowd went quiet without being asked. "You know," Timothée said, voice low, calm, "I used to think interviews were about celebrating the work. But it seems more and more they're about turning the artist into a meme." Colbert laughed nervously, trying to play it off. "Hey, it's late night. We roast because we love, right?" Chalamet leaned forward. "Roasting's one thing. Undermining is another." That's when the first real ripple went through the crowd, like someone just stood up at a dinner party and flipped the table. Colbert's eyebrows rose, caught off guard, searching for the script. But there wasn't one. When the gloves came off, the silence wasn't empty. It was full of everything left unsaid. Colbert attempted to regain footing. "No offense meant at all, man. I've just always admired how seriously you take the craft. You're, what, 29 and already halfway to a Meryl Streep record?" Still trying to laugh. Still trying to lighten. But Chalamet wasn't biting. He nodded slowly, gaze steady. "You know, Stephen," he began, "there's a strange pressure that comes with being taken seriously when you look like me. People assume you must be pretending, that it's an act, that sensitivity is weakness, and if you ever show an ounce of real emotion, they package it as fragile, funny, a punchline. Colbert sat back. The audience was dead quiet now, unsure whether to applaud or wait. "I get it," Timothée continued. "It's your job to be funny, but it's mine to be real." The air thickened. "And if we can't make space for sincerity in the places people are most visible, then maybe those places don't deserve sincerity." There it was, the swing. Not a punch, not a shout, but a precision strike. Not personal, just real. And the thing about truth is, it makes people uncomfortable. Even on national television, the comeback no one saw coming, Colbert tried. He really did. There was a flicker of old-school showmanship in his posture, like a vaudevillian on a sinking ship. He smiled, held up his hands in surrender. "All right, I stand corrected. No more jokes about the crying, unless I'm crying too." Laughter. But it felt forced. And Timothée? He just smiled. Finally. But not out of amusement, out of resolve. He looked at the camera. We ask actors to bleed on screen, but then mock them for the scars they bring to the stage. Then he stood up, mid-segment. No cue, no music. Colbert blinked. "Wait, you're leaving?" Timothée didn't even look back. "Some moments don't need applause." He was gone. Just like that. The door behind the stage closed with a soft click that sounded somehow louder than thunder. The mask slips back on set. Colbert tried to recover, but you could see the shift, the way his hands fidgeted with the pen, the way his leg bounced. Under the desk. He cracked a few jokes. None landed. Then he sighed, leaned into the mic and said, "Well, that wasn't in the script." A nervous chuckle, a glance off camera, then silence. The rest of the show limped on, but the spark was gone. No celebrity walk-ons, no witty wrap-up. Just a host staring into a lens, suddenly aware that not every moment can be controlled. Behind the curtain. The truth hits hard off-screen. The ripples kept spreading. Twitter exploded. TikTok got the clip before the credits rolled. Headlines popped up within hours. Chalamet walks out on Colbert. Timothée takes a stand. But beneath the clickbait was something deeper. A conversation about dignity. About the fine line between vulnerability and spectacle, and about what we ask of public figures when we turn them into entertainment machines. Timothée later posted on Instagram a simple black screen with white text, sometimes protecting. "Your piece is louder than any applause. I'll always choose art over image." That line alone became its own wave. Cracks in the comedian's armor. Colbert stayed quiet for days. When he finally did speak, it was in a clipped segment at the start of the next episode. No music, just him and the camera. "I've always believed in humor as a bridge, but bridges can collapse if you're not careful where you step. I stepped wrong. No jokes, no defense. Just a man publicly learning that even legends can misread the moment." Final exit. One walk-off, many messages. Timothée didn't return to the show. He didn't need to. His message was bigger than one night, one joke, one host. It was about boundaries, about artists not being court jesters, and about the space between performance and personhood. And as he walked off that stage, not storming, not shouting but simply choosing to leave, he did something rare. He reminded everyone that silence can sometimes speak louder than spectacle. "Your turn, what do you think? So now we turn it to you. Did Chalamet overreact, or was he right to draw the line? Was Colbert out of bounds, or just doing his job as a late-night host? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, but keep it respectful. This one's deeper than just drama. And if you love dissecting these moments where Hollywood masks slip and real emotion steps into the spotlight, hit subscribe. We've got more stories like this, and trust me, they only get wilder from here. In the days that followed, the internet did what it does best, dissected the moment frame by frame. Every eyebrow twitch, every breath before a response, even the way Chalamet adjusted his blazer before standing, it all became part of the narrative. Fan edits appeared within hours, layered with Billie Eilish songs and slow-motion captions. Like Mark, he protected his piece. But here's the thing, this wasn't just about drama. It was about a broader shift in how we see and treat vulnerability, especially in men who don't perform traditional masculinity. Because Timothée Chalamet isn't just another movie star. He represents a different kind of leading man, one who cries in interviews without shame, who wears pearl necklaces on red carpets, who says things like, "Empathy is power," in GQ profiles. That kind of man, for a long time, has been easy, fodder for jokes, and late-night TV has often capitalized on that, dressing sincerity up as spectacle. So when he stood up, literally and metaphorically, it wasn't just a clapback, it was a refusal to let the machine define him. And that shook people. Because for all the progress we've made in media representation, there's still an undercurrent that says, if you're soft, you're weak. If you're earnest, you're cringe. If you're famous, everything is fair game. This moment cracked that, even if just a little. Fans. React. He set a boundary, and that's powerful. Twitter threads lit up with praise. Some fans defended Colbert, claiming the comment was obviously a joke, that Chalamet should have rolled with it. But a surprising number of people, even those who didn't consider themselves fans of Timothée, sided with him. One viral tweet read, "Timothée walking out wasn't drama. It was a masterclass in boundary setting. And that's rare, especially for men in the spotlight." Another wrote, "Stephen Colbert is great, but so is accountability. You can't joke about someone's process and expect them to just play along because it's TV." It hit a cultural nerve, not because of the fight, but because of what it revealed. We're all getting a little tired of forced smiles and scripted charm. Audiences today crave realness, and ironically it took an unscripted walk-off for everyone to realize how much of Hollywood is still scripted to the core. Hollywood whispers, this changes the game. Within the industry, the ripples were quieter but just as real. Publicists whispered about it during lunch meetings. "Is this going to be a trend now?" one exec reportedly asked. Actors walking off when they don't like the jokes? But others saw opportunity. One anonymous director told Variety, "What Timmy did was bold. Not in an ego way, in a values way. He's showing that you can have boundaries and still be a bankable star." And that's not insignificant. For years, young actors have been told to smile through it all, to play the game. Be cute, be funny, be agreeable. Say the line, sell the project, keep the wheels turning. But now they've seen someone opt out, walk away, and not get destroyed for it. In fact, the opposite happened. Chalamet's streaming. Numbers spiked. His fan base grew. Brands leaned in, not away. He was being rewarded, not punished, for choosing authenticity over polish. Colbert's quiet pivot, humor with humility. To his credit, Stephen Colbert didn't double down. He didn't drag it into a bit, didn't spin it into viral comedy. That silence? That was telling. In his next few shows, the tone subtly shifted. Still funny, still smart. But the edge was softer, more curious than cutting. You could see the gears turning, a seasoned host rethinking his instincts. And isn't that kind of evolution what we say we want from public figures? Maybe it took Timothée's quiet defiance to make that evolution visible. Maybe it took the walk-off to remind everyone that even institutions like The Late Show aren't immune to growth. More than a meme, why this moment stuck. It would have been easy for this to become just another internet flashpoint, a 15-second clip chewed up and spat out by algorithms before the week ended. But it didn't fade, because beneath the celebrity glitter it tapped into something deeply human, the need to be seen not as a product, but as a person. Timothée wasn't melting down. He wasn't storming off. He was doing what most of us have fantasized about doing in moments where we feel misrepresented or misunderstood. He set a limit, calmly, firmly, and walked away. In a culture obsessed with content, that's radical, and it reminded people that you don't have to perform grace when someone disrespects you, especially if doing so would mean disrespecting yourself. A final word, we're not props. A week later, during a press junket for Dune, Part 2, a reporter asked Timothée cautiously if he had any regrets about the Colbert interview. He paused, thought carefully, then said, "I respect Stephen, But I also respect myself. We're not props, we're people, and sometimes walking away is the most honest thing you can do. That quote, simple, unflinching, was the final nail. Not in Colbert's reputation, but in the old way of doing things. The way where stars were expected to smile through anything, and authenticity was something you showed only when it was PR safe. Now, things feel different. Legacy of the walk-off. What happens now? In the weeks that followed, other celebs began taking bolder stances. Zendaya shut down a journalist who kept asking about Tom Holland instead of her career. Florence Pugh redirected an interview that focused too much on her dress and not enough on her role. And more than that, fans celebrated those moments instead of mocking them. We're seeing a shift. One walk-off didn't cause it, but it accelerated it, validated it, named it, because sometimes all it takes is one person choosing truth over optics to remind everyone watching that they can too. Timothée Chalamet didn't just end an interview, he lit a match. And Hollywood is still watching the fire, still with us? Tell us this. All right. Now that the full story's out there, we want to hear what you think. Do you see this as a turning point in how celebrities manage public image and power? Or just another viral moment that'll fade like the rest? Was Timothée brave, petty, or somewhere in between? Hit the comments, drop your take. And remember, real conversations start when we stop pretending. And hey, if you made it this far, you're clearly into the kind of storytelling that digs deeper. So go ahead and subscribe. Because this was just one story. We've got plenty more masks to peel back. There's something sobering about watching someone break script on live television. In a world obsessed with content, polished, packaged, filtered, moments like this remind us how rare spontaneity has become, and how dangerous authenticity still feels when it doesn't serve the narrative. That's why people couldn't stop replaying it. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was real. Timothée Chalamet reminded us that human boundaries aren't negotiable just because a camera's rolling. He reminded us that a well-placed silence can say more than any soundbite. And maybe most importantly, he reminded other public figures that you don't owe anyone your dignity for the sake of a laugh track. And here's the kicker. The people who really got it weren't just fans. They were actors, hosts, writers, assistants, interns, people in the machine who'd spent years smiling through discomfort, saying yes when they meant, please stop. They saw themselves in that moment. A 28-year-old movie star wearing a custom Hyder Ackerman suit, walking off a billion-dollar set, not because he was angry, but because he was done pretending. And in a city where pretense is currency, that's revolutionary. This isn't about canceling anyone. It's about evolving. Let's be clear, no one's calling for Colbert's head. This isn't cancel. Culture. It's culture evolving. This moment wasn't about villainizing Stephen Colbert. It was about holding space for discomfort, for tension, for the awkward human mess of trying to be funny and missing the mark, and someone deciding not to let it slide. That's not scandal. That's growth. And if late-night hosts, celebrities, and fans all walk away from this moment a little more aware, a little more respectful, and a little less performative, then maybe that silence, that chair left empty in the middle of a taping, was the loudest conversation we've had all year. Still, here, one last thought. We'll wrap with this. Not every moment needs to explode to matter. Sometimes the most powerful thing a person can do is quietly stand up, say nothing, and walk away. So next time you find yourself compromising who you are, just to keep the peace, remember Timmy. Remember the suit, the stare, the chair, the pause, and then remember, you don't have to stay seated just because everyone else expects you to.